Is the defective infertile woman looking for a marriage partner? William sneered as he looked at me. He probably just wanted to look down on me and assert his superiority. Chloe, who was linking arms with William, also had a smug look on her face. I'm pregnant right now. And you? You can't even get married. How sad, Chloe laughed quietly. I decided it was time to reveal the truth. Tilting my head, I said, Huh? Who are you calling a defective infertile woman? What? But you. William was confused, not expecting this reaction. Chloe still thought I was bluffing, maintaining her triumphant attitude. But that would soon change. I called a certain person over. My name is Luna Brown. I'm 38 years old. I live with my husband Owen and our son Leo. Owen is very understanding about my work and gives me a lot of freedom, for which I'm grateful. Because of this, we have a good relationship. Leo is only 3 years old, and he looks just like Owen, adorable. Because I'm busy with work, I leave him at daycare on weekdays. Since he feels lonely during the week, I make sure to spend quality time with him on my days off. I love you, Mom. Leo says, asking to be picked up. I love you too, Leo. I say, spreading my arms wide. I never imagined the day would come when I could hold such a cute son. Because I had failed in my previous marriage. Moreover, the reason for the divorce was my infertility. 5 years ago, I divorced a man 5 years older than me named William Jones. I met William at a matchmaking party. At that time, I was 30 years old and feeling very anxious about getting married. Most people around me were getting married in their 20s. My close friends and female colleagues at work were all getting married. My workplace had an unspoken rule that women would quit once they got married. So, my female colleagues all left the company when they got married. Eventually, I became the longest-serving employee and was mocked behind my back as old maid. The male employees laughed at me for being a spinster. And the female employees whispered behind my back that they didn't want to end up like me. Because of this, no matter how hard I worked, I wasn't recognized. Led by my male superiors, my presence was considered a nuisance. I didn't want to work in such a place anymore. Anxious, I began actively participating in matchmaking parties. That's where I met William. He was also feeling the pressure to get married, just like me. He had a decent job and made good money compared to others his age. He was also quite good-looking. I didn't think he needed to rush, but he had his reasons. At the party, he said, my parents keep nagging me to show them their grandkids. I didn't care much when I was younger, but now that they're getting older, I want to make them happy. William laughed self-deprecatingly. He had been so busy with work that he hadn't had much time for dating. Seeing myself in him, I wanted to marry William. We got married soon after. I quit my job and started focusing on getting pregnant. I didn't plan on staying at the company anyway, so quitting wasn't an issue. My boss and colleagues were surprised by my marriage, but they welcomed my resignation. William supported my focus on getting pregnant. The main reason I got married was to make my parents happy. I want you to have a healthy baby boy, he said with a smile. However, things didn't go smoothly. A year into the marriage, William's attitude changed drastically. I'm taking care of everything, so why aren't you getting pregnant? Fulfill your duty as a woman, he would say angrily whenever I got my period. As a housewife with no income, I could only cry and apologize to William, saying, I'm sorry. Then, 3 years into our marriage, something happened. William cheated on me. I was supposed to spend a night at my parents' house for a memorial service. I had already gotten William's permission. You're a housewife and you spend so much money. I get that you have to go, but don't waste money. He nagged right before I left. However, the memorial service ended earlier than expected, so I decided to go back home instead of staying at my parents' house. By the time I got back, it was already night. When I arrived at the house, I noticed the lights were on. William was probably home already. Not wanting to make him angry, I quickly went inside. William, the memorial service ended smoothly today, so I started to say as I walked towards the living room, but I froze in my tracks. There was someone else in the room with William. Who was that woman? In the living room, there was William and a woman I didn't know. She was clinging to William. I was shocked and turned pale at the sight. William sighed heavily and said, "This is Chloe. She's 28 and my girlfriend." He emphasized her young age, clearly to spite me. It was definitely a jab at me being in my 30s. "Hi, I'm Chloe." "Nice to meet you, Mrs. Jones," she said with a smug grin. Seeing her, I started to shake with anger. Girlfriend? This is outright cheating. Despite prioritizing William all this time, I couldn't forgive him. I even supported his desire to have children and worked hard at it. William sighed again and said, "It's been 3 years since we got married, and still no kids. You're infertile. And you're already 33. Even if you get pregnant, it'll be a high-risk pregnancy." He glared at me. His harsh words hit hard because they were true. I was 33 and hadn't been able to conceive. His accurate yet painful words made me feel frustrated. William continued as I stood there, silent. "My parents introduced me to her. They told me to leave the infertile woman. So, I'm asking for a divorce. I'm gonna marry Chloe." What? I was infuriated by William's outrageous remarks. After all the effort we put into trying for a baby, William was betraying me so easily. And Chloe, standing next to him, seemed to have a nasty personality. "That's right, you're off the hook now, Mrs. Jones," Chloe said, unable to contain her laughter. "Chloe, you're too honest," William said, laughing heartily. I turned red with anger, feeling utterly humiliated. This was the catalyst for William and me to get a divorce. The divorce process was incredibly difficult. Because William brought in a lawyer, I only received a minimal settlement. I never wanted to feel so miserable again. I decided to rely on my own strength from then on. A while after that shocking event, I started working outside the home. As a former housewife, I needed an income to support myself. I couldn't rely on my parents, as it would have been unfair to them. Returning to my old job wasn't an option, and I didn't have the skills to switch careers easily. At that point, a relative reached out to me. It turned out no one was available to take over my late uncle's company. My uncle was single and had no children. So, his will stated that he wanted one of his relatives to take over his company. However, the other relatives already had their jobs and families. Starting something new from scratch was difficult. That's why they chose me, a divorcee with no job, to take over. I was very worried about whether I could manage being the president, but Owen, who was my uncle's secretary, encouraged me. Owen was my age and had a refreshing appearance. He was also very reliable. "Luna, you'll be fine. I'll support you well, so let's do our best together." Owen's words made me decide to take over my uncle's company. At first, there were many difficulties, but with Owen's support, I managed to run the company. Owen and I went through a lot together and eventually got married. I told Owen about the reasons for my divorce from William, and he said it was okay. I also told him about William's affair with Chloe and how I was humiliated before the divorce. "You're much more attractive than that woman," Owen said to me. I was hurt by the divorce. So, Owen's words were very encouraging. Surprisingly, Owen and Chloe were from the same hometown. Owen told me a secret about Chloe. Knowing that secret made me dislike Chloe even more. I decided to remarry Owen, but I had one concern. It was whether I could have children with Owen. Owen said he didn't mind either way, but I still wanted to have children with him. Despite my worries, I was fortunate to get pregnant quickly. I was surprised to conceive right after getting married. "Luna, let's cherish our child together," Owen said, delighted. After that, I gave birth without any issues. Leo grew up healthy and showed us many adorable moments. With our busy lives, the memories of William faded into the past. One day, Owen, Leo, and I went to a fancy restaurant. Usually, we eat at home, but today is our wedding anniversary. So, we booked a private room at a restaurant to enjoy a meal together. That's why I dressed up more than usual today. I wore a branded dress and pearl earrings, which I don't usually wear. As soon as we entered the restaurant, Leo suddenly said,
"Daddy, I need to go to the bathroom."
Leo, who was currently toilet training, started to fuss about going to the bathroom. It would be a disaster if he had an accident in such a fancy restaurant. Owen picked up Leo and said, "I'll take Leo to the bathroom." "Luna, can you check us in?"
"Got it. Take care of Leo,"
I said as I watched them go. I then approached the front desk to check us in. While I was waiting for Owen and Leo, an unexpected person called out to me. "Is that you, Luna?" "Huh?" I turned to see William and Chloe standing there. Chloe seemed surprised to see me, but then smirked. She looked at me with a triumphant expression and said,
"Isn't this William's ex-wife? I almost didn't recognize you in such a fancy outfit."
Chloe emphasized ex to belittle me. William looked me up and down with a sneer. Well. I started to feel a surge of anger towards William's smug expression. "What do you want?" I couldn't help but look at William suspiciously. William was definitely up to no good. My suspicion was right. In the next moment, William said something outrageous. "Is the defective infertile woman looking for a marriage partner?" William sneered at me.
What? What do you mean by that?"
I glared at him. That was beyond rude. They just wanted to look down on me and assert their superiority. Chloe, linking arms with William, had a smug look on her face. "I'm pregnant right now." "And you? You can't even get married." "How sad," Chloe laughed quietly. I wanted to end this ridiculous conversation quickly. It was time to reveal the truth. Tilting my head, I said, "Huh?
Who are you calling a defective infertile woman?"
"What?" "But you." William seemed confused, not getting the reaction he expected. Chloe, thinking I was bluffing, maintained her triumphant attitude. "Aren't you here for a matchmaking date? This place is a famous high-end restaurant for matchmaking. It's quite expensive. Can an old woman like you afford it?" Chloe laughed smugly, implying that William could afford it but I couldn't. William joined in her laughter, saying, "You, an ex-housewife, trying too hard at such a place. Even if it's for matchmaking, you'll run out of money soon. And for an old woman like you, wouldn't it be a split bill?" "I wouldn't even want to split the bill. A matchmaking date with an old woman like you is a waste of time," Chloe said, bursting into laughter. They clearly thought I was desperate and struggling with matchmaking. Believing they were superior, they were truly foolish. I sighed quietly. Their smugness wouldn't last long. I called over someone.
"Owen, Leo! Come over here!"
I called out to them as they were returning from the bathroom. "A child?" "It's a boy," William muttered, looking at Leo. "No way." Chloe stood there with her mouth agape, her face turning pale. Owen, having overheard our conversation, glared at William and Chloe. Leo, oblivious to the situation, smiled cheerfully. I introduced Owen and Leo with a smile on my face. "I'm not here for matchmaking. I have a wonderful husband and a child." "Isn't Leo adorable?" Leo beamed at my words. "Am I cute?" Leo said, blushing. I picked Leo up. William, taken aback for a moment, quickly regained his composure. Then I said, "That kid must be this guy's child from a previous marriage. You remarried just to have a child. Someone like you, who is infertile, couldn't have your own child." "Right, Chloe?" William turned to Chloe, but she didn't respond. She looked down, her face turning even paler. "He looks just like Owen and the old woman," she muttered, clearly distressed. Leo, sensing the tension, started to get scared. Even William noticed something was off with Chloe. "Chloe? What's wrong?" he asked, but Chloe still wouldn't look at him, clearly shaken. Owen then spoke up, breaking the silence. This wasn't going anywhere. Owen then spoke up quietly. "It's been a while, Chloe," Owen said, and Chloe started to cry. William, shocked to see Chloe like that, asked, "Chloe, what's going on? Did this guy do something to you?" But Chloe continued to ignore William. With Chloe crying like this, the conversation wasn't moving forward. So, I decided to speak to Chloe. "Of course, you can't tell him about Owen. You've always been in love with him, haven't you?" "Oh." Chloe was bewildered, not understanding how I knew this. When I told Owen about my divorce from William, I also mentioned Chloe. Owen was surprised and asked, "Is this Chloe, the woman with a mole under her eye and long hair?"
"Yes. How did you know?"
I was shocked that Owen could describe Chloe so accurately. Owen explained the situation. It turned out that Owen and Chloe were acquaintances from their hometown. Chloe had always liked Owen and constantly followed him around. Because of this, Owen couldn't get a girlfriend. Even when he started to get close to someone, Chloe would interfere. She would stalk their dates and even threaten the other women. This scared them away, feeling Chloe's madness. Eventually, both men and women avoided Owen because of Chloe. Fed up, Owen left his hometown and joined his uncle's company. He dedicated his life to working there. By chance, we met and ended up together. Owen only had negative feelings towards Chloe. "That woman ruined my life. I hate her more than anyone," Owen said with a deep sigh. Remembering this, I looked at Chloe. She was glaring at Owen with a bitter expression. After a long pause, she spoke resentfully. "That's right. I've always loved you, Owen. When you disappeared, I had no choice but to settle for another man. Where have you been all this time?" Chloe was shaking her head wildly. Chloe was shaking her head, her eyes wild with anger. Her expression was so frightening that even I was taken aback. Chloe then turned to me.
"I thought taking William from you would be satisfying. But stealing Owen from me is the lowest. Owen belongs to me, give him back."
William was shocked by Chloe's glare at me. I went through all the trouble of marrying young Chloe, only to find out she loves another man. "What am I supposed to do?" he muttered in a daze. He had chosen Chloe over me, even getting a divorce to be with her. I thought it served him right. Owen then spoke to Chloe. "I love Luna. I've never liked you, Chloe. In fact, I don't like you. Please don't ever come near me again." Owen then protectively stood in front of Leo and me. "No. I can't, Owen," Chloe cried, tears streaming down her face. She couldn't accept what Owen had said. Chloe cried loudly like a child, seemingly forgetting they were in a high-end restaurant. The other diners started to glance over at us. The restaurant staff looked troubled. Noticing the attention, William shouted at Chloe, "Hey, Chloe. Get a grip. Everyone's staring at us."
"So what if they're staring? I just got rejected by the man I love. I have every right to cry,"
Chloe retorted, justifying her behavior. "You're pregnant. You should prioritize the baby." William was exasperated by Chloe's words. Watching their interaction, I suddenly remembered something. I turned to Chloe and asked, "Whose child is it, anyway?"
"What are you talking about, you old hag?"
Chloe retorted, though her face turned pale. She glared at me, trying to intimidate me into silence. I wasn't afraid of her. I also held a grudge from my divorce with William. I smirked and said, "Are you pretending not to know? I see through all your schemes." "What are you talking about?" Chloe continued to feign ignorance, crossing her arms and scoffing. Her boldness was almost impressive. Suddenly, William stepped in to defend her. He stood in front of Chloe and shouted. The baby Chloe is carrying is obviously mine. Unlike you, Chloe got pregnant with my child. Stop being so jealous just because you're infertile. Owen. Chloe muttered. I admired William's sense of justice, but he hadn't realized a crucial fact. Seeing how much Leo resembled me, it was absurd for William to think I was infertile. It's time for you to face reality, William. I sighed. But it didn't seem to register with him. You need to face reality. Nearing 40 and still unable to have a child. You're deluding yourself into thinking someone else's child is yours. He declared confidently. The one who was truly deluded was you, William. I looked at him and said, William, it's impossible for you to be the biological father. Even with today's medical advances, it's just not feasible.
What are you talking about?
William glared at me.
The baby I am carrying is William's. Stop being jealous and face reality, old woman.
Chloe stepped forward, supporting her belly. Arguing further would only complicate things. I reluctantly pulled out my phone and showed them the screen. The child Chloe is carrying isn't William's. Here's the proof. What? Chloe looked at my phone screen, her face turning pale. She covered her mouth in shock. William stared at the screen, struggling to comprehend. What is this? He seemed unable to process what he was seeing. I told him firmly. William never paid attention during our fertility treatments, so he wouldn't understand these numbers. I sighed deeply. What do you mean by that? William asked, still confused. I scrolled the screen to show the results more clearly. Does this make sense now? As William read the screen, his face turned pale. No way. I have no sperm? He stood there, unable to move. He had always blamed me for our inability to conceive, never considering it could be his fault. He never even considered that the problem could be his. William began to tremble. I could see he was in shock. I decided to clarify further. William had been diagnosed with azoospermia during a fertility test. Throughout our 3 years of trying to conceive, I had visited a specialist clinic. The doctor suggested William also undergo testing. Though William was reluctant, I managed to convince him. The test results showed he had no sperm. I didn't tell him at the time to avoid hurting his feelings. The fertility specialist told me it would be nearly impossible to have a child with William. It was quite hopeless. I said with a bitter smile. I remembered all the harsh words William and Chloe had thrown at me before the divorce. This level of payback is justified. William was clearly in shock. Showing my parents their grandchild was everything to me. What am I supposed to do now? He muttered, holding his head. I decided to tell William again. So, William, having children is impossible for you, right? Whose child is Chloe carrying then? Chloe looked terrified. Huh? William glared at Chloe with a fierce expression and shouted at her. Chloe. What is going on? Well, it's just that. Chloe stammered, unable to come up with a good excuse. This only tightened the noose around her neck. So, it's really not my child, William said, his shoulders slumping. But this wasn't the end of my revenge. I decided to push further. By the way, you both asked why I was at this restaurant earlier, didn't you? Why are you bringing that up now? Yes, I did ask. William looked puzzled. Chloe remained silent, not saying a word. Chloe remained silent, likely having lost any sense of defiance since it was revealed the child wasn't William's. I told William firmly. Actually, I own this restaurant. Well, to be precise, it's one of the businesses run by my company. What? What do you mean? William's jaw dropped. Chloe looked equally stunned. Actually, my uncle's company runs a wide range of businesses, including the food service and real estate sectors. We own franchises of major fast food chains and invest in real estate, among other things. My uncle mainly focused on business acquisitions, leaving the actual operations to others. That's how the company has grown all this time. By diversifying the business, even if one sector fails, it doesn't affect the whole company. It was well thought out to prevent any single failure from bringing down the entire company. This high-end restaurant is owned by our company, but the staff was retained from the original business owner. This way, the quality remains high, and it's become a popular high-end restaurant in the area. I explained all this to William and Chloe. William turned pale after hearing this. No way. If Luna is the president, she's making way more money than me, he exclaimed, holding his head. William was just an employee. Compared to me, the president, his income was significantly lower. He had looked down on me so much, never imagining his ex-wife would become a president. I smiled and said, "By the way, our company's annual revenue is $1.1 billion. Could you ever make that much, William?" William turned even paler at my words. While our company's annual revenue is indeed $1.1 billion, my executive compensation is a fixed amount each term. So, I don't personally make billions. However, I don't feel any obligation to explain this to William. He kept muttering, $1.1 billion. Chloe, regaining her composure, said, "So, Owen is a house husband? Doesn't it bother you to be under your wife's thumb? I could support you better, you know." Chloe still hadn't given up on Owen. I was about to retort, but Owen stepped forward. "I care about Luna. I love her, whether she's a president or not." "No." Chloe bit her nails, looking frustrated. Seeing this, Owen smiled. "And someone who doesn't even know who the father of her baby is, I have no respect for. You should care more about the baby you're carrying."
"How dare you? That's so rude!"
Chloe shouted, her face turning red with anger. William, seemingly losing interest in Chloe, approached me. "Luna." I quickly stepped away from him. "Today is my anniversary with Owen. Don't interfere." William had probably thought I still had feelings for him. His expectations were dashed. Frustrated, he turned to Chloe.
"Because of you, I lost the chance to be married to a president. What are you going to do about it? And you cheated on me, too."
But Chloe wasn't having it.
"You're lucky you married a young woman like me. How can you say that? No one wants a sterile, nasty old man like you."
William and Chloe started arguing while Owen and I stood aside, watching. There's no point in staying here any longer. I turned to Owen and Leo and said, "I'm not interested in these people anymore. Let's go enjoy our meal," and we left. After that, William and Chloe got divorced. It turned out that the child Chloe was carrying was not William's. A DNA test confirmed there was no parent-child relationship between William and the child. Chloe had been hung up on Owen and had affairs with men who reminded her of him. She ended up pregnant by one of them. And she didn't know who the father was. In the end, Chloe begged William in tears.
"Please don't abandon me. The baby is about to be born."
At that time, Chloe was already in the late stages of her pregnancy. Being divorced with a large belly, she wouldn't be able to live properly. Chloe was likely headed for a miserable life. I know all this because William contacted me. One morning, I received a call from an unknown number. When I answered, it was William. As soon as I picked up, William desperately started talking. I was deceived by that woman. I realize now that only you, Luna, are the one for me. William pleaded with me. "Can't we start over? I had to quit my job to take care of my parents, so I have no income now." "But you're making good money, right?" William hadn't changed at all. He still claimed no fault and only spoke when it suited him. Now that he knew I was the president, he was trying to get back with me for money. I was so glad I had left him. I firmly told William. "Absolutely not. Since we broke up, I've been really happy. I have a wonderful husband and son. I emphasized the word son, knowing how much he wanted a child. You get all high and mighty just because you're on top now. I could hear William grinding his teeth in frustration over the phone. This was the kind of man he was.
I'm a busy president, so I'm hanging up now. Don't ever call me again.
I said this and ended the call. It was my day off, so I decided to change my phone number. To completely cut ties with William, I took action. I got a new number and contract. My relationship with William was cleanly severed. I continued my work as a president. Owen supported me both personally and professionally. Leah was very cute and had recently stopped using diapers. Let's continue to live happily together as a family. I quietly made that vow in my heart.